Logging in is the same as the last website. So it'd be qps.org. Right? So it is qps.org and then QPS admin. And then once you go there, you have the general WordPress username password. And so if you ever do lose your password or forget it, you have to use the lost password function, which is the link right below. Enter in your email and be emailed directly to you at that email address. And it'll give you a link just basically to reset your password. Fairly standard. You either use a username or your email address and your password to log in. It'll take you directly into the system. Once we log in, the dashboard, not much to see on the dashboard. You won't generally be interfacing with it too much. Okay. What we'll go over basically today, since I'm sort of going through everything, I like to start with the media or the media library. We'll start there and we'll go ahead and go to the pages. We'll also go through on the pages the different types of content for you guys. It'll be Beaver Builder that will be hitting a good part of today on, and then also events and posts. And then we'll start into the custom post types, which I mentioned earlier. And for you guys, these custom sections are departments, employees, board members, schools. I believe that's it. So we'll go ahead and jump right into the media. All right, the media library. This is basically the same as the last version of the website that you had. We do use a plugin for the media library to have these separate sections on it. And so all of them are separated and all the files can be separated by sections on here. What this adds is just another layer that you can go and filtering and search for everything on your website. So as you can imagine, just like files on your computer, all the images, documents, videos, etc., could be stored under all these different folders. They have both on the left and on the right as general views. To add a folder, up here on the top left, there's add a folder. Simply title it, and it will create the new folder for you and put it in there for you to use. Accessing the folder, simply click on the folder on the left or the right. It will refresh and then show you, I guess, in list form, the list of files under there. And then also the different folders if there is a hierarchy on there. So while I'm clicking right there are the different types of views, which is a list view and also a grid view for files and folders. Whatever you're used to or want to select on there. Sometimes that list view is a little long and scrolls on forever. I like this grid view personally. As you can see, just a thumbnail of all the images, and it is a document, which is nice. There's a PDF on here. As if we click on an individual image, what we'll see, of course, is the more statistics on the image, as far as the original dimensions, who uploaded it, etc. On the right, I do want to go over a few points on these. The most important one, I think, is the alternative text. When you upload a new file, it will take the file name and put it in the title. It defaults to this title, and this is how, on the back end, how Google sees it, and also how screen readers for people with disabilities will see the description of the image. Since they may not be able to actually view the image, this is how the data gets, recorded in Google and also read via screen readers to people with disabilities. So alternative text is very important for those reasons, not only for search engines and Google to know what the image is and to categorize it by, but also to describe the image to people that are using assistive technologies. And so there's now a link that will describe what you should put for the alternative text if you do forget. basically a one-sentence description of what the image is. And so you'll use this 99% of the time. Just as written here, this is the Baldwin Elementary School in Quincy, Illinois. That's a pretty descriptive sentence of the photo. But if you would like exact details of it, you can probably click this link right here. We'll just click and open a new window. Yeah, and it'll give you the breakdown of the yes and no, and continues, and the do's and don'ts of alternative text. Anytime you upload a new picture as you're editing a page, you don't have to put the images in the image library or media library beforehand. You can do it as you're editing the page. Anytime you do that, I do highly suggest to go ahead and type in an alt text in there. All right, below that, as I mentioned, the title, it pulls directly from the file name. And so sometimes it makes sense. It'll take out the dashes or underscores for you, which is nice. Other times it will be very strange, just depending on the file name. Captions, this is the visual text that goes underneath the image, just like you see in books and on different web pages. Utilize this when you need to on an image. In this case, this image is mostly shown without a caption below it, just visually, and so we don't have a caption in there. And description. A description is like alt text. The only difference is it's not limited by one sentence or a number of characters. If you need to write several paragraphs to describe a picture, especially if it is a map or if it is a graph that you're trying to describe what is on the graph, that's when you can use the actual description and type it out there. And then that appears on the back end, and then any assistive technology or what have you will read it from there. Beneath that is the file URL. This is very handy for not only images, but for documents as well, PDFs, and that you upload. You can utilize this not only for editing, but also if you need to, instead of sending an attachment on the email, you can use the direct link to the website, which avoids attachments, which is usually a little bit easier for people just to click on in an email. So you can either use the nice button that they put in recently or just copy and paste this link. And this, as I mentioned, is a direct link to the image or document. It brings it up in its full size. And so if you ever do want to download an image that has been uploaded, you don't want to just click and drag it off the previous screen that we were on, as that's not the full size. Go ahead and use that link, put it into another tab or window. And then, as you can see, if I even click on this, that is the full size of the image. And you always want to download the largest version of the image possible, just to get that quality there. So you can use that link. Or, as I said, if it's a PDF or document, go ahead and you can copy it and either put it different places that you're editing if you want to link directly to it, or as I said, in an email or something electronically. You can use that. Beneath that, most of this you won't use on a general basis. You can have a customized link that will pull in some places that you can put there. And also other things for editing for the media folder section. So if you wanted to add the image, a link to the image or anything else, you can store it in this. But I would suggest to do that on the front end. And that's after clicking on the details. Yeah, and you can just click on or use these navigational arrows to go through the different pictures in that folder. Yep, and this is a PDF, so slightly different. Doesn't have an alt text on here. You don't need to put alt text for PDFs since natively they can, screen readers and stuff can go into the PDF and read the text from there, much like a Word document, unless it was just posted from an image, then it might have trouble. If that's the case and you do want to add a description, it is available there. But the same file URL is right there. All right, so adding image or images to these folders. As you can see right at the top, there's two buttons, add new and then add remote video. I'll first go over add new. This is the tried and true sort of WordPress drag and drop. You can drag a whole folder worth of images in there, and it will just pull them in one at a time and load them all in. So also the button here for select files, which will just open up your Finder if you're on Mac, or your Explorer window if you're on PC. And so you can find them directly there. The Add Remote Video button is new, and that might be something you can try for fun and see how that works. Since this is sort of a new thing, I don't know how differently it acts other than a normally embedded YouTube video. The next thing I want to go in is the pages, and that's the link course right below this. And there are a few ways to edit the pages on your website. As an administrator, of course, you'll see all the pages, all 70, and that will grow probably a little bit over time. They're all listed here. As you can see, a calendar, and then career information, and then anything with the little dash in front of that is a child of the career information. And so that will be the parent folder, and then of course 2 dashes is a grandchildren, so to speak, and the child under living in Quincy. That's just sort of how those are stacked in there. As you notice, this has not changed. In WordPress, you hover over the title of a page, and will bring up a mini menu below it. You'll see edit. Edit is the same as clicking on the title. We'll bring you into the general page editor. Quick edit, we don't use. This is much like the quick blog post on the dashboard. There's not, I'll go ahead and click it just so you can see what it'll do. You can change page titles, dates, authors, and just parent information on here. If you're going to quickly clean up like your WordPress page directory and want to assign parents to a bunch of them, this would be a nice thing to use, as you can just pop open this little screen and then hit update and it closes. But most of this information will already be set for you guys. And so if you do see this, accidentally hit it, you can just hit the cancel button over here on the left. Trash means what it says. It puts it into a trash tab. If I scroll back up to the top, there is one page in the trash tab. These are stored just like your trash can, much on your desktop computer. If we go in there, I believe it's just probably a test page or something that was, just trashed either by a developer or yourselves. Now, the difference, there has been a change in WordPress, whereas the trash can used to just be this unlimited, endless abyss of where pages would sit for, however amount of time that you have set them in there until you go in and manually delete or restore them. This has changed, and WordPress will automatically clear out your trash can monthly. And so if you do put anything in the trash, make sure that you want it into the trash and don't want to keep it for any reason. Going back to all the pages. The next on here, next to trash, is view. This will open up the page into a new tab or window to view it normally. And then next to it is something new, and this is Beaver Builder. This will take you directly to the page and open it up in Beaver Builder. And we'll go into that shortly. There are multiple ways to edit or to go and edit the page in Beaver Builder. This link is one of them. Let's pick an easy one here, like career information. I believe we can edit this one. I'm going to click on the title and just show you just the basic edit page on here. This has changed just a little bit, but not much. On here, where you used to see the text editor, now it has just launched Beaver Builder. This lets you know that the page was built in Beaver Builder. And to edit, you should go through this. If you were to click on the text editor and take it out of Beaver Builder, it would lose the template. And so I would recommend not doing that. You can always launch it back into Beaver Builder and save it in Beaver Builder. But Once you see this, you know where to edit it. And if you do take it out, it will affect the template of the page and how it looks. So if you see this, you can go ahead and click the big blue button to edit in Beaver Builder. But before we do that, I'll just go over the page quickly to go over the information on that. At the very top, the title, and the title shows not only in the breadcrumbs, but also in the top bar of the website. If I were to open up a new tab here, just go under careers and career information. There we go. This is the same site on here. So I was reviewing. So not only in the breadcrumb, but also the title of the page are all pulling from this. You can change it and edit it. And then when you're finished, you can hit the blue button update on the right. This will push all changes that you have made live immediately. And so it will change everywhere, and even in menus, it will change them as well. Below that is what's called the permalink. This is the direct URL to that page. As you saw up here, the career info is the same here. Now, these are editable. In fact, this was probably edited from this. If you were to create a new page, it actually populates the permalink with whatever you type in the title, and it will auto-generate the permalink for you. It'll be all in lowercase, and I'll put in dashes for spaces. And so if you have a very long title, it could get a very large permalink. Normally, this is fine, it doesn't matter. You don't need to edit it necessarily. But if you wanted to create a page that you wanted to promote, either by advertising word of mouth or something easy to for your users to remember, to go in there, you can, of course, just have it qps.org/ one word or something short, memorable. You can edit this permalink, and simply type it in what you want it to be. The only rules are no spaces. I would highly suggest all lowercase, and try to avoid special characters on there. Just keep it very simple. And the last rule is it has to be unique, of course. So with that said, you can just hit OK after you type it in, and then changes will not take effect until you have updated the page. Now, we don't want to change these willy-nilly necessarily, but for new pages, you absolutely can change them if you have a crazy long title. All right, so of course the content builder is there. Beneath that, the all-in-one or AIO SEO settings, this is a plugin that just generally helps with your search engine optimization. You can edit these. Moving on, you can type in custom meta descriptions and everything else to help with your SEO. The snippet preview is nice on there for you to see what sort of looks like generally in search engines, Google, Bing, etc. Key phrases. One thing, there is a social tab that if you do share a page on Facebook, etc., you can actually have some nice settings on here. So if you're sharing a page, I would suggest to at least change the image sometimes, the image source, and you can do this by attaching an image and customizing the image on there. If you do attach the image or file image in content, it will take the image that is in the content, which is nice. If you leave it default, it will just take the first image on the page. If you ever made a Facebook post, you'll probably notice that it'll probably be the Q, or the Quincy Public School, which most of the time works great. But if you want to customize it, that's where you would do it here in the social settings of all-in-one SEO. So that's just a helpful tidbit for you guys sharing on social media, because I know that metadata gets a little fun. It's quirky a little bit in Facebook as they change their policies a lot. All right. Below that, you won't have to worry about the permissions on here. On the right, real quick, for just going over this, the status of the page is usually draft if you just created a new one, and then you would save the draft until it is published. And then once it's published, it's live, everyone sees it as a draft. No one sees it but the admin. If you ever want to take it without trashing it and want to take a page offline, you can click on that edit button, and you can actually put it back to draft. On there, and that would take it out of the view and offline. All right. Another thing, or another way to take it off view, is visibility. There's a couple different things on here, and more options have been added with some plugins we added for your permissions, but I'll go over normal ones for you. Everything is public once you, of course, publish it. Private, we'll take it offline and we'll not put it in the trash. So only admins or people with the same admin access, so this would just be administrators, would be able to see it. And it will appear in your page menu, just like we went to, but is not online for any normal user to see. I would suggest to use that over draft, but either way will work for that purpose. And the last thing in this I want to go over is just password protect. This is a very generic password protect for WordPress. If you share that password with anyone, anyone that has a password will be able to view the page. Now the page will load just like it is now, except the content of the page will just say, ask you for your password. Once you enter the password, the page will show normally, just like it did before. So if you ever need to either preview a page, or if you want to put something behind a very generic password, meeting minutes, stuff like that is used often for things like that. I'm sure you have other programs and devices for that. But if you need to do that for this website for just something real quick and handy, this will work. Of course, it isn't encrypted or to strength or a very strong password protection. And so you don't want to, of course, put anything that you shouldn't or wouldn't put on a website. All right, so cancel out of that. And then revisions. This is handy. WordPress and also Beaver Builder have worked with this. Revisions will show you the history of the page. So as time goes on, this will extend. This is sort of a timeline bar. You can take this and slide it to the left and go back in time. It'll tell you sort of when. 2 months ago, yeah, there wasn't any information on the page necessarily. What you can see, what has been changed. Housing was added over here. This does show it in HTML, and so it's not the easiest for everyone to read, but if you did need something in a pinch, you can go and copy and paste this, or you can use the restore this revision button, and it would actually restore that vision that is on the right side of this page and replace what is currently on the current website page. So that is handy if you ever did need to revise something or to go back and look for something. Publish date, just one tip on this: if you ever want to publish something in the future, you can. You can actually change the date to a time in the future if it's a draft, and it will actually publish it on that said date. So if you want something to go live midnight, on the page and be available to the public somewhere, time it with Facebook, etc., it will go live on that date. People will be able to access it and not before. So you don't have to stay up until midnight. You can just set it beforehand, set the publish date to the future, hit OK, and then save the draft or update. It will save it as a draft if it's in the future, and then publish it on that date. So that's another handy attribute to have. All right, on the further down on here, we have like page attributes. As I mentioned before, if this page has a parent, you'd want to select it on here. This is important for basically who gets to see the page and how it is sort of shown in the menu. Templates, you can just choose the default template on here, especially if it's in Beaver Builder. You won't need to select anything different on here. And order we don't use on the page. All right, everything below this in Beaver Builder will not be used in general pages, and so I'll go directly into Beaver Builder. Now, launching Beaver Builder, as I mentioned before, we hit the big blue button to launch, or we hit the link in the other menu to go straight into Beaver Builder. And what this will do is it'll open up the page just as you see it. And then over it, we'll put the Beaver Builder editor. You know you're in there, you see a little Beaver guy with a hat on the left, tell you what page you're editing. You know that the Beaver Builder is active. So as we scroll down, we notice that the header isn't changed, but we're actually editing the content of this page. And so as we go down to the content, we start to notice the boxes. And these boxes are all different. There are different, they call them modules in Beaver Builder, and so I will refer to them as modules in here. And there are several different types of modules, from images to videos to content modules, and there are actually hundreds of different types of modules depending on what you want to do, from galleries to icons to action callouts. Many different types on here, and I'll go over a few of them with you and then turn you guys loose and you can explore the others. But to edit these modules, you can click or left click anywhere within the square on here, and it will open up that module editor. And so this one is called a PowerPack info box. This is what the developer used for these. They have several tabs on here, and you'll notice that these tabs are very similar to all the modules within Beaver Builder. The general may have different things in different ones, but there'll always be an advanced tab and usually a content tab. And so you'll know, sort of makes sense. So the content goes in the content tab. If you have a link, it's in the link tab. Style, this is where you can choose all the colors and different things. Typography, the fonts, etc. So just on this one, I'll go in the content. This has the general, the tile prefix. So if I move this over a little bit to the right, apply for employment. If I were to change this text in here, it automatically shows you what it looks like as you're making the changes. And this is very nice. There's no surprises. There's no, I have to click on a preview button, etc. You sort of see it right away. And so that's the nice thing about Beaver Builder. If you want to change that, there's no description on this, but if you did add description, it would be below that, as you can see for this module. But it has the general tried and true WordPress content builder. So that's the content link on here. You know, depending on the module, what the link will be. Of course, this is linking to a different page and asking it to go into a new window. And so all of it's pretty straightforward, intuitive on there. Style, it'll take some playing around with this for different modules, like the box colors on here. We're using, of course, the light gray, and there's a darker hover background. Under general, we have a default style, but if you did want to have like a different text or border, once we get to the text, you can change from the default, change the color, change the width. This gives you a lot more control. You're probably noticing right away if you're used to WordPress. This gives you a lot of control over the different elements and design on the page. All right, so the title, This is where we can change the default color and go crazy. Just color selector on there if we wanted to. Different hover color, tabs, or description text. All that is under the style tab. The actual font, here's where we can actually, this pulls in all the Google fonts on here, and so you have lots of choices if you wanted to customize your font. The default one is, of course, will match everything else on the website. You won't need to change that if you want to stick with it. As far as size, weight, alignment, anything else that you really want to spice it up with are on there. The advanced tab is more for just how it fits on the page, if you want to think of it that way. And so we are tabbing this, looks like below the top information there, and then you can change the borders if we need to as well on there. There's a visibility setting if you do want to get into if you have issues with mobile, or if you have build something that you don't want to appear on mobile, you can actually select it to show only on large devices, which is desktops, and will not show on what it thinks is medium, is like an iPad or a typical tablet, and the small size, of course, would be your phones and other small media like that. And then animation can be dangerous. Lots of different animation is built in here. Can be used for good or for bad. It does detract sometimes from people's attention on websites, but used nicely can also bring things to people's attention. So you can fade and move from left or right. And as you can see, that just brings up that box, slide up or down. Yeah, you get the picture. You can change that. You can change the delay and duration, how long it goes as well. The rest of this is when we start getting into element IDs and everything else. Now, once you're done editing any of this, so you make a change to a content, down below, you have 3 buttons. You have save, save as, and cancel. Simply click save. Save will bring you back just into the Beaver Builder general editor for just that page. And of course, to get back in, you can just click on anywhere in that box. The save as, this is a way for you to save, or even like a rubber stamp almost. You can save it as a global. So if I were to hit save as, it'll bring up the name, save the module as. And this was a nice way if you are repeating something. So you set something up and you're repeating it on the page. So just like this page is a good example. What the developer did was probably develop the color and the style for each one of these boxes. And then they either saved the module or copied it and just threw out the page and just went in and changed the image and the title. Saves you on time on developing. And also if you were to put it on a different page altogether, would actually, save you time and then having to remake it again. So you can just save it as a title, and I'll show you how to access those. It saves it into your modules, which when we add them, I'll show you where those are. But also gives you the option of a global or not. It gives you a little question mark here in case you're wondering what the global is. So you can edit, if it is a global, you can edit it once and it will change wherever that is in the entire website. That is handy. And so you're not having to go to each page and changing it more than once. If it is not a global, for the example I gave, if you don't want it to be global because you do want these to be individually separate, so I can edit the image and I can edit the text to be different, you would set them as no. So depending on how you want them in there, you can do that. And of course, the other button is cancel. You didn't want to save your changes. I just want to cancel out of there. Of course, I didn't cancel it, and so it's sort of say the red in there is saved. So here's how you would get rid of that if you did not want to publish. When you are done, if you want to publish or not, you go up to this blue button at the top right. This is done. If you click on it, it will give you options here. One of them is to discard, which I will be doing, so that nice red text will go back to normal. You can save draft. What this will do is we'll take your page just like we were going on the normal page editor. It will save it as draft. It will take it offline and save it into draft until it's republished again. And so you do want to avoid this option for a live page. So what we'll be using is either discard or publish. Publish will push the changes automatically online. So in this case, I will hit discard. It'll say, are you sure? Yes. So as it refreshes, it will go back to our normal blue and delete the changes I made. So before I go in and jump in the Beaver Builder again to show you how to add modules, this is the third way in Beaver Builder to easily go in. I call this the easy way. This is the way I use the most is as I'm surfing the site after I've logged into WordPress. You can do this by using the toggle over here. Quincy Public Schools, that's been in WordPress for a while. If you didn't know, you can click on that after you log in and go basically to the how any user would see it, with the exception of your toolbar at the top. We'll go back to the career page here, and I would click Beaver Builder, just straight at the top. And that will go right back into the editor of the page. One thing I do want to go over quickly, this is the move button. You can click and drag. This is a click and drag interface, in which we'll see as we start to add modules. But if I wanted to move this particular module and move it and change the order, it actually has different parts, which I grab, but you can actually change them left and right as they create that in there. And so clicking and dragging the interface here to rearrange, that's what the upper left corner of each one of these boxes will do. The second one is the settings. So the wrench sort of makes sense. This is the same as clicking anywhere in the box. It's just your edit button, and we'll bring up the module editor. The third one, I mentioned it before very quickly, but this is the duplicate feature. So in this box, I am creating another little slide. And what this is the column is the background of this box. So if I want to create multiple ones of these and drag them somewhere else, I can. The very right is remove, as I'm getting rid of that on there, which makes sense. And then edit column. The column, which when I edited this module, it was only editing this little box that was overlaid on the background image. You'll notice that in some columns, in which we'll build shortly, you can actually edit the column settings. And if you go just straight into column settings, you will see the style. And then this is where that photo is. So if you ever get sick of a photo on this page and want to change it out, edit column, column settings, and then here's the photo. If you edit it, it will open up, yes, the media library, and this is where you can go and upload a new one, a new folder or file image on here. They'll bring it in. You can select it, even if you want to change the size of it on there if you need to. It gives you a few more options on here as far as colors and everything else. If there is a overlay, which they did they graded out just a little bit so it isn't too bright in your face, it looks like. So lots of nice touches that you can do on here if you wanted to. All the different features in there. Change the text colors if there were any on it as well. So those are the buttons on each of the modules. And so going into adding modules, right next to the done button is a plus sign, and it's sort of hidden if you didn't know where to look, but this plus button opens up your sort of toolbox, I'll call it. And this toolbox holds all your modules, which are each individual sort of item on the page. It also holds rows. And so as you are developing a site, you can actually select rows, and this has different amounts of columns. And so it will automatically give you columns. And as you notice, I'm clicking and dragging this over just to show you as an example, a 3 column. And so it gives you 3 empty columns on here. And as I did that, everything you notice in here is a click and drag. And as I click and drag, I go back to modules, and I want, and at the top, we have just basically what's called the basic modules. This is what you'll use most of the time. And so you have a text editor, which you're very familiar with. If you want a photo on there, if you want to have a video on there, you click and drag that over there and place a video on there. Or if you want to add code or a list or a heading, each one of these are a little bit different, or a button. And so I will choose each one of these to sort of show you. I am clicking and dragging, and as I'm dragging it, you'll see there is a blue sort of highlight of where this lands. And I can put this anywhere I want, but I'll go ahead and put it into this left box here. It will automatically open up the editor. And this is a general text editor, and so there is the tried and true WordPress editor in there. Of course, type your text, copy, paste. You can add media, links, anything in there. It will appear normally. Of course, as I type, as you see on the sort of on the left is where that. I'm just going to put a couple paragraphs of text on here just to give me something to play with. So as you can see, sort of showing us what it looks like there already. I'll go ahead and save that. So it does confine the area in which that is, and that's great for responsiveness. As you can imagine, as we shrink this page down, it will also shrink that until it folds it, and it will stack it top to bottom, and so it is responsive. If I want to add a photo, you can add a photo in there. Again, the size is determined by the column on there. So as you can see, when I select a photo, I can upload one or just grab one real quick from the media library. Oh, now I want to make sure to add some alt text. You can change it at a different time if I'm incorrect on there. And as you can see, the title is the file name pulled in there, so it doesn't make much sense. We'll want to make sure to update that or change it if we need to, but I'm just going to use it right now just for a photo. There we go, and as we can see, it's on there. That is the full size that was uploaded whenever it was at 480 by 360. I can change that size down to a thumbnail if I wanted to, but even if it is 4,000 pixels wide, it will be confined by that column on there. General photo module, I'll show you this real quick. Nothing different here. All the same elements are there. The alt text will still go in the media library as you put it in, but you can choose to show the caption or not on this module. You can change your links from here. You can even add a light box if you wanted to off here, which is nice. Another option. The styles of it, you can of course change it. You can add a crop if you wanted to add a circle crop, which sometimes is popular. We can circle crop it there. And so it gives us a couple more tools in our toolbox just to play with and design-wise. Change the border radius. Yeah, you can play with those. And the advanced tab, again, is generally the same on all of them. You can change the visibility, animation, and the margins on that. So pretty simple. Adding a video, sort of the same. I'm going to duplicate this just to give us something to play with and drag that over into the third column. All right, so here we have the 3 columns sort of set up. If we ever want to change the size of the columns, there's just click and drag feature. We can sort of change that around, or at a later time, if we want to decide to move things around, it's simply click and dragging and then adjusting if we need to. So Beaver Builder is sort of a slick way to make those additions and changes to the website. And so this will be just for, as I mentioned before, administrators. Once we get into the inside pages and the templates for the school administrators, anyone making pages, it's just the simple content module that WordPress has always had for those. All right, so as I mentioned, there are hundreds of different types of modules, not only just the ones that you scroll down here, but if you were to select this drop down, there are, which you probably saw, a Power Pack module, UAVD module. Each one of these come with several different types, not only just simple content and image holders, but also business hours, different buttons and toggles, and Google Maps, galleries, many things that you can see on different websites are in these modules. And so I won't go over all of them with you guys, but I do encourage you to sort of go through there and play around with it if you want to. We went over rows, templates. These are sort of baked into Beaver Builder. What these are generic templates of just sort of ideas and things that you've probably seen on different websites, like splash pages, different themes and stuff like that. While we don't use these, they are sort of fun for people if you did want to use them to apply to a page and go from there, just to play around with it to get some ideas. Or to apply them, you simply just click on them. It will say replace the layout, and I promise I won't say this if this is live, or you can append it to a layout, and I'll just append it just to show you what that looks like. So if I scroll all the way down, here's that template on there. And it gives you all the boxes on here, and that you can actually click and edit to change that background image. And if you want to change this placeholder text on here, you can. So lots of different fun things for you guys if you wanted to experiment and play around in there. And of course, I can either delete all these, or I can just hit done and then discard to change the page back to normal. And so you guys can create a separate testing page for this if you wanted to have some fun, or I guess you can do what I did, just be careful not to publish, whatever you trust yourself with. Last thing on the Beaver Builder, if I were to go into saved, all those globals I mentioned before, here they are. They're all in your saved rows, your saved modules or columns, whatever you saved as. And so these are the different ones that developers use, whether it be search box or anything for school. These are all the different modules that they create on here. Or so if we just select one, of course, with the click and drag. Let's see, maybe just the form. We can just drop it into our page, and it would open up. And yep, this is this is one of the forms that they've used. And we can make changes if we wanted to, since this is a non-global module. Save module on here. We can change that, and I'll just cancel it out of there. We can save it if we want to on there and leave it on the page. So anything you hit save as would fall in this saved tab under modules. And so with that, that is a very sort of quick and dirty how to use Beaver Builder. And then the next thing that you'll want to do is say, well, how do I add a new page? I'll just go back to for the pages here. Okay, so adding a new page, we're sort of building from scratch. So we go under pages and add new. This has been in WordPress for a long time. It'll open up just the generic editor. And so we'll create this new page, whatever it is. After we, of course, tab off that, it will create our permalink. We can edit that if need be. And we want this to be in Beaver Builder. Before we do that, we want to make sure that it's not a child that needs to be put under a parent page, if it's its own thing, or if it needs to go underneath a certain section. You'll want to do that here. And then if it is not, we can go, instead of using this text editor, we'll actually want to use Beaver Builder, and that is telling the page that that's what we want to use. So if we click on the Beaver Builder tab, it will do its thing. It saves the title and everything that we did. And here we are. We're at a blank new page and nothing in it at all. And so we can just get started and start putting our information in there. So whether we create rows or if we want to just create one giant text editor, using Beaver Builder will take advantage of the template that is already in there for the nice header and everything else. So you're off to the races. Drop in your modules, copy and paste over your information, put in your photos that you need to do. And this is where you can have fun and use a gallery or an icon. I'll just use the icon real quick to show you that. You can actually select an icon. It will pull up from Ultimate Icons is what it's using. And there are many icons you can use, arrows and what have you. There are different libraries that you can search from. If you don't find the exact icon you're looking for, there's lots of course, school-related, business-related icons on here, and social media icons, emojis, what have you. You can probably find a lot. So I'm just going to put that on there for now, just for fun. If they click on that, you can actually copy and paste a link where you want them to go, and actually type in screen reader text, which we went over. So it's not going to show on the front end, it will only show in the back end. It gives the icon just a alt tag, which is nice. All right, here's our text. You may notice that the media button is gone. That's because they don't want you to put crazy photos in this text, but this is the text that will appear above or below this sort of section. From the style, we can change the size of the icon. And so we can change it if we click it, make it much larger, much smaller, etc. The alignment, left and right, icon colors, etc. So going through here, it just didn't want to appear while I was editing it. All right, so that is just a quick example of the Beaver Builder and the platform. Once you're done, of course, you can publish this and then, of course, go from there. And I will discard this and sort of get rid of it. I will leave this on there if you guys want to use this as a testing page. It's not linked up anywhere. So I'll go over each one of these very quickly, including Formidable. After that Beaver Builder and all of that, these are fairly easy. So we'll continue recording and just go under events. This is the same that we use as the same as a website. So everything functions generally the same. Events, adding a new, of course, click at the top and add new. I'll go ahead and edit one just so we have, show you something filled out, what it looks like. Title, of course, at the top, which it appears. Date and time selector, very much the same, no end time, or if it's an all-day event, only has that. If we unselect it, of course, we'll have time selection on there. Time zone, of course, Chicago will be the same time zone for your schools. The repeat functionality, believe is sort of the same. We can make it daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, depending on what we want to do. And so we want something to happen monthly, the first Monday of every month. Of course, we can select it monthly, every 1 month, the day of the week, and select that. And end never, or end, if it's just the school year and you want to reset it up the next school year, you can do that. Sort of simple on that. Weekly, you can select the days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, or just Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, however that applies. Fairly simple, intuitive on there as far as the repeat. Exclude, if you did have something on there and one of your meetings lands on a holiday or something that's off, you can actually go into excludes and you can choose what days, to exclude out of that. And so, of course, if one lands on spring break or if one lands on, U.S. holiday, you'll want to exclude those from the calendar or the schedule. And so it allows you to do that there. Locations, you can custom set these. It doesn't look like they were put in by the developer. And so you might not use these necessarily. People know, if it's at one school or another, depending on what it appears under. Since this one is actually under the music category, it might be in different locations or maybe in a park or something else. You can select the venue name and address you can put there and show on map. To show it on the map, of course, you have to have the address for Google to pull in the nice information and to put a pin on that address on there. And that will show in the details of the website. If you really want to get fun, you can do the coordinates, longitude, latitude on there, but usually the address is pulled in fairly well from Google. Event tickets and costs. There is not a ticket sale module for this, but you can actually just add in a cost if an event has a cost, and it does put that out there. There is no registration. It doesn't sell tickets through this. Organizer contact info. Generally, since it's coming from the school website, you don't need to fill this out. If you start using outside events and need a different organizer to contact, it will simply just put that on the details of the event, and you can fill that out per event. Of course, below this, here's our handy dandy content editor. Very much the same. You can add media, you can add links, you can even add a form to this. And so if you did have something, a type of registration or a simple registration, you can handle it internally, or you can handle it if you do have another sign up externally, you can link to it. All right, so, and below all-in-one SEO settings, same rules apply as the pages on general and social, etc. on there. We move up to above the publish settings, same rules apply as the page, including the visibility, including the publish settings. And so you can set an event to appear in the future and not right away on your calendar, just depending on how you want that to appear. The most important thing for the calendar on here is the categories. These categories, of course, you have lots of different categories, from sports to different schools to appear on their calendars, depending on what calendar or what school you are under. So, of course, if you're under Baldwin, you will see the Baldwin calendar. We'll tell it sort of what appears. So if you, depending on the section you are in, is how and where those will appear. So important, if you don't select a category, it won't show up on that page. So do make sure to remember to select a category on there. The rest is not fairly used. The rest on here are the settings on the left side. or more calendar themes, and digging down into the settings if there's anything on there. If you do have a question like on those kind of changes, just give us a holler on there. Of course, those settings will affect all the calendars, and so we'll want to make sure that we're tweaking the right thing before we do make any of the changes. All right, so if there's no questions on that, that's pretty plain and simple. I'll start going through the custom post types, and I'll start with departments on here. So if we'll just select one, we'll use for food services, fine. All right, so you sort of see the food service and different links on there. So let's click under departments. This is organized much like the pages are. And so it's pretty simple to see, the same way as pages, what are parents and what is underneath them. And so Quincy Federation teachers, you can see the different pages below them, food service, and then the different pages below food service. Now, this is not in Beaver Builder, and so you will not see Beaver Builder in this little drop down from the menu. This is all sort of straight page editing, very simple, because we have possibly lots of different people editing it. So we can see this page. If I wanted to edit this particular page, I just click on food service. If I was a food service like editor, I would only see the food service page, and then the children below it is the way we have it set up. So that is nice, that they only see their own things, and they would see basically the same thing we are now. And so as we go through here, this is the sort of the tried and true WordPress page type for simplicity on here. All right, so they would have access to the title and permalinks on there. They would be able to add media on there. They can't delete media, but they can add media on there. So they can add different pictures and PDFs, anything else they want to link on. The editor is the same on there. They do not see the formidable button, which we will see when we use an example to log over there. All these resource links, menus. That is what's appearing on the right side. So follow us on Facebook link is right here. Now these are set as a different column and rows, and so the actual quick link section, which always appears over on the right side, can be set and changed on here if we ever wanted to change the name or where it links to. We can always change it here. Now I see if I hover over these on the right side, there is a remove button, and that will remove the row. As you can see, there's almost like little building blocks on here. If we wanted to add a row, we can either scroll down the bottom and add a row, or if you notice throughout here, we have a little plus sign, and that will allow us to add a row on here, or we can hit, testing, and then click on the page if it's a page that we're going to, or if it's none, we can hit a resource link and just copy and paste that in. Now there is a top photo under here, under departments. So food service has this nice array of fruits and nuts and pictures on there. To change that, of course, you can see here, you can hit the X on here. And by that, then you can hit add image. And this will open up your media library, of course, and you can select on any new image on there. Now the intro, that doesn't actually appear on the top here. All right, and all of them will have view edit calendar as well. Now, I'm not going to save this, of course, since I removed your lovely picture, but sort of generically, all the parent pages will have this information. And you can, of course, hit update. It would update that and push it live immediately. I'm just going to go ahead and go back into departments. Yes, I'm sure I want to leave. I don't want to mess that page up. If I were to go under a sort of a child page, so if I were going under forms here, so we're following along. So we're under forms, very simple. Yeah, it's just new page, 2 links, just the 2 links there. And then if I scroll down, as you can see, where we had the links over here on the right and the header are not under the children. And so you won't see those options under the child pages. That's only determined by the parent page. And we made it that way to sort of keep it simple. And so you won't have to necessarily select a new image for every section. All these are sort of on there already. It also makes adding pages very simple for any editors or school editors. They don't have to select all the different images or links that appear on the right side. They just add that to the parents page. I'll go back to the food service main page, show again that those are on there and not under the sub pages. So yeah, and it's underneath the content. And so here's the header, and of course, here's the quick links. And moving along on that, to change navigation on those. And on the right side, we have the navigational menus, and they put the cafeteria menu, which we can change to food services. But they put a button there, which was nice, that we can go directly to the cafeteria menu. Now, for some reason, that didn't. I'll sort of ask the developer on that. It should take you directly to there. If not, you'll notice under menus that you can select the different ones there. Hit select to edit those. And of course, editing these, you will see the forms, the forms menu payments, and of course, the drop down under payments and the food service directory. Those from top to bottom. This is the standard WordPress one. If you guys are used to this and how it works, top to bottom is left to right on there, and dragging, simply putting them in there. That's how you would get them in there. And to add a page, of course, if you were to add a page under departments, you would pick the one you added. And since we're admin, of course, we see all of them. But if we were individuals, we would see the new page that we've added. On top, we hit the checkbox, click add to menu, and then drag that appropriately. I'll go over that a little bit more in detail with the school administrator. All right, so that is the departments and how they work. All of them are very similar to that. And so as far as schools and departments are very similar. Employees and board members are sort of the same as well. I'm going to jump to school just to show you while we have this fresh in mind. It is a lot like departments. So if we do the ABC Academy, the very top one, yep, that's where we have the content. The school picture, we have the addition of an address, since it is a physical, location and phone numbers. and the administrator. This is where you would change that information for the whole school section. Is the main school page. Underneath that is the quick links that do appear to the right, much like the departments. And of course, you can change the school picture if you wanted to. Now, on these also, we'll have a category, whether they are a special school, an elementary school, or secondary school. This is only for the page or for the top page, told by the developers that you need to set this. All the rest of the pages will follow the parent, or these won't change much. If you do need to add one or edit one, you can change those categories here on the right side. Other than that, everything acts and works and functions the same as the departments on there. As far as the children and creating and the menus. There are different menus for every department and different menus for every school as well. All right, quickly moving on to employees. This is your employee directory, of course. You can add news at the top. As you can imagine, this is just another WordPress created directory. And these are fairly simple. Name of the employee at the top. Don't worry about the permalink. It creates that automatically. How it appears, their first name, last, title, and email. From that, everything else is created dynamically on the front end. So the email Abby button will pull from this automatically. Location also needs to be set if they have one or multiple locations that they work at, and also departments, one or multiple ones. And now that helps with the filtering and searching and how they appear. Otherwise, it'll appear alphabetical underneath the staff directory on there. So very simple to add everyone on that. Abby and the email Abby button. Everything else that was selected on there will show. So, yeah. So very simple, the employee. You can edit the locations of departments on the left here by the drop down if you needed to add or change any departments. Hover over them, delete them, or click to edit the name of them. That gives you a quick count and rundown also, if you ever wanted that. That's fun. Locations, same. Click on locations, you can add locations for those categories, quote unquote, over on the right side via the locations. So you can add new just from here or edit from that side. Moving on to board members, very similar to the employees with one difference. We have a featured image. So we have a nice image of the board members on there. Featured image, very simple. You can remove and then click to add. It brings up the media library, and you can put the image in there. There is an order number on here. And so when we do look up board members on the page, school board members, there we go. Of course, this is how they appear in there. Ordered, you can set the order by that number. Of course, he's 8 on the page, so number 8. All right, very simple. There's only a couple forms on here. This is a basic form editor. The contact form. Nice things on here. Very click and drag interface as far as adding anything to the form. Recaptcha is already on there. If we need to add more, do different, if you start getting a lot of spam through this, we can also monitor that through our Mailgun. If you do have any issues with that, we can adjust. Recaptcha version 2. There has been recently some Google and the people that like to take advantage of it, hack it, have been going at it and we've noticed an increase in spam on that. And so if we ever need to add a different type of either a honeypot or a type of question to filter out spam bots, let me know and we can work with that. Otherwise, settings on here and entries would probably be the two things that you'll want to look through the most. The action notification, or to change who receives the contact form, can be changed here. And as you can see with the pop-up, nice little reminder, you can just add a comma and then multiple email addresses if you wanted to for multiple recipients. Everything else should be set up on there. The reply to, all that looks good. The other thing on here is entries. If for some reason anything would fall off email shuts down or something like this, the website does retain all contact information in there. So you can go resend it if you need to, or just see what was in there and reply to it normal wise. You can just take the email address. You can also export these as well. So click out of there. I won't go too much more into that since you just have very simple contact forms on there.